Well, good morning, internets. Welcome back to another week. My name is Jeff DeVerter, and I am the Chief Technology Evangelist over here at Rackspace. Of course, you know that. I tell you that like 5 times a week, but I'm glad to be here again with you. But who's here today? I'd love for you to introduce yourselves in those comments. So let me know who you are, where you are. Guys, we are going to have a fun conversation with Miss Casey Shilling here today, and she is the Chief Marketing Officer here at Rackspace. But before we get into all of that, if you want to get a hold of us, one easy way to do that, that's through email. You can send an email over to solve@rackspace.com, and that will hit the whole production team over here. And we would love to get a chance to engage with you. If you've got an idea, you've got some constructive criticism, something nice to say, maybe something not nice to say, you can send it anyway. All right. Hey, Eric is here from San Antonio. Eric, I'm in San Antonio today, so it is good to be in the same city with you. And India is here. We've got Dinesh. Thank you for being here. Sherry, aspiring racker from San Antonio. I'd love for you to be a racker. So if hopefully you're in the process. If you're not, go over to rackspace.jobs and you can peruse everything that's available over there. Everyone, if you are interested in following more about, hey, someone's here from Poland. This is the first time someone's been here from Poland. So, Jolanta, I am so glad that you are here. Thank you. We're going to put a new pin on the map. Guys, if you are wanting to learn more about anything that we talk about today, whether it's information about Casey, whether it's any of the news articles, or whether it some of the updates that are going on, you can find that over at rackspace.com/solve/109. And as always, guess what you're not going to get there? A sales pop-up. You're just there to get some great information, and it's available for free. Hey, we've got some friends from Mexico, Houston, Louisville, Kentucky. So glad you're here. I hope I pronounced it correctly. You guys are particular about that. And speaking of new things that are going on, if you wanted to go down to /109, that's, of course, this is episode 109. And we have a new podcast this week that is out. It's only available if you are subscribed to the podcast. And you're not going to find it here on the live. But if you go over and subscribe anywhere where you can find Cloud Talk, where you can learn about Rackspace's new CTO, Srini Kaushik. Now, Srini was on the Rackspace Live episode last Wednesday. Of course, that's available on the podcast. You've got to subscribe. So I'd love for you to go check that out. But it is a really compelling conversation, and I think you would enjoy it a whole lot. Reminder, everybody, shields up. That is what the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency says here in the U.S. If you want to learn more about that, well, just head over to cisa.gov/shields-up, and you can learn more about that. And I think that you should. Hey, Clark Kent's here. You are a regular. I'm going to make you a t-shirt, as if I had t-shirts to give you. But hey, let's get into our episode here with Casey. I'm excited to bring her up on stage, introduce you to her. I get to work with her and her team. Guys, you know, you see me here, but Daniel's behind the scenes. We've got Julie, we've got Megan. There are countless others. Brooke, when she gets back from maternity leave. All of them working inside of Casey's amazing organization. Casey is just one of the amazing women, though, that we do have working here at Rackspace, and all of March has been dedicated to women in technology. And as we head into April, we will return to our Women in Tech Tuesday. So there'll be an extra one coming next week. But and towards the end of this episode, I'll tell you who's coming up on Thursday. But with that, enough of just hearing from me. Let's get Casey up here. I would love you guys to get to meet Casey Shilling. So Casey, welcome to Cloud Talk Live.
Thank you. Good morning, Jeff, and hi everybody around the world.
Yeah, we've got folks everywhere. You've seen it from India, Bangalore, India, all around India. Hey, in Poland, I'm so excited. We have somebody from Poland here today. That's a first. We had some folks down in Central America for our first time last week. So it's a fun global audience here.
Love it. Love it.
Well, Casey, I'm going to start this interview kind of in reverse from how I've done some of the other ones. And so what I want to know is, you know, when we think about, 12-year-old Casey, was being involved in marketing and brand and all, and maybe even working in tech, on your radar, or what were you thinking a career was going to be as a young teen?
Oh gosh, 12-year-old Casey had really big Coke bottle glasses and braces, and but very full of want to work. So I started working at 14 at a Stuckey's roadside
Nice.
stop, if you will, if people remember those. But I didn't have aspirations necessarily to be a marketer, but I was very much into band, and I was into theater. And so presenting and being, I guess, on stage somewhat was something that really got me going. I love to write, but I love to work, just working. And I think, I grew up in a small town in Texas called West. So it's in Central Texas, not West Texas. That makes perfect sense. But it's a
Perfect
little
sense.
Czechoslovakian community in Texas. And, one of my first jobs was actually at a bakery there making kolaches. And so I just always loved to be with people working. And it, as I look back, it always had sort of um, a customer hospitality
Yeah.
engagement, aspect to it. So marketing really didn't come to my head when I was 12, but I think I was doing a lot of marketing as a child.
You were doing those things already. All right. So you spent time in, of course, growing up in West Texas. You mentioned the Czechoslovakian community. You mentioned working in a kolache store. And if you're from Texas, there is a debate about kolaches. Is it a fruit-based pastry, or is it a sausage in the middle? Where do you fall in a true kolache?
Well, I'm not Czech, but I grew up there, and I have a lot of Czech friends. I think, I think we call them all kolaches, but
Mhm.
the sausage ones are the ones, right, that I think people really associate with. But if you're in Texas, get down to West. It's a great little town, great food and kolaches for
And
sure.
great people in that part of the world too.
For
So
sure.
obviously you came up out of there. And as we were visiting before, it turns out our paths sort of crossed a little bit indirectly in that area. I spent some time in Waco at good old McLennan Community College. This is in the previous career where actually, guys, I was all involved in the music industry, ultimately studying audio production to eventually own and run a recording studio in Houston, Texas. I saw some folks here from Houston. But you ran around that part of the world as well as you went into your college years.
I did. Before I went down to San Marcos to Southwest Texas State, which is now Texas State University, I did some classes at MCC
Mhm.
where you were hanging out right before I went off. And then I went down to San Marcos, and I was a broadcast journalism major, minored in creative writing. And so a lot of that type of equipment and
Yeah.
all of the things that you were working on, we were probably working on at the same time.
Isn't that interesting? So eventually, of course you finish your schooling and you head off to begin the career, and you've had some really interesting career stops along the way, and some lengthy ones too. Like we think about the time you spent at the Container Store. Maybe tell a little bit about that journey.
Sure. I did start my career as a television reporter and anchor in small market TV, which was a
Mm,
dream at the time. That's, I wanted to be able to tell stories. And so I did that for a couple years. And then I worked for a couple of agencies in Dallas after that, all on consumer brands. And then one of the clients at one of those agencies was the Container Store. And they were looking to bring some of their marketing and public relations in-house. The short story is I then went over and helped them start doing that with a great team. And it was really a joyful, almost 20-year career there, helping build a brand. For those of you that don't know the Container Store, they're based in Dallas, nation's leading retailer of storage and organization products, really providing solutions to help you save time and get organized. And so I think, my joy-filled career there with a lot of great people, we helped build a brand that I think
mm.
makes people smile, that evokes emotion. And as a marketer, that's what really fuels my soul, no matter what industry you're in, making those customer connections so that, they come back and become, loyal fans for life.
Right. So building brand is, you can look at it in two different ways. Of course, there's the public persona of what that brand is. There's the internal persona of what that brand is. But then there's the extension, I think, of brand, and that is in the organization, the culture of the organization. I know that's something that you're pretty passionate about in helping to build an influence in any organization that you're in. Would you
Yeah, I mean,
tell us about that a little?
yeah, I think we've all said it in one way or the other, but I really do believe you grow a brand from the inside out, and it starts with, your people. And so it's always been and I grew up, like I said, 20 years at the Container Store. It was a great culture rooted in foundation principles, hiring great people, training them really, really well. And then obviously, serving the customer so that the heart races when, you shop in the store. But that starts with people, right? And it starts with walking the talk and making sure that you're communicating breathlessly. Everybody knows what page we're on in the songbook. And, when things get tough, you also lead through your core values that way. And so I think when you've got a bunch of, wonderful internal cheerleaders that really understand the vision of the company and what you're trying to do, your brand really flourishes from there, because the word of mouth is just incredible.
That's really interesting. And so what are some of the lessons that you learned? Like, so what are some of the things that as you helped to grow that at Container Store that worked well? And then, of course, I'm going to ask the inverse of that. What things didn't land well, or
Well,
strategies for doing that?
yeah, I think just in general, I mentioned communication. I think that really solves everything. And the great kind of communication, where you're celebrating, but also the communication when times get tough. Whether that's a business decision that the company's making, or something that is macro, outside the world that is impacting the business. But communicating is my number one thing, and ensuring that everybody really understands what's going on. They feel safe and secure, that folks aren't feeling worried or uneasy. So communication, I think, works really well. And then as a leader, I really always try to lead with compassion and clarity. Um, Obviously, when you don't have a clarity in what we're trying to do, everybody's, kind of floundering. So I try to provide clarity, and then compassion and vulnerability, to provide a safe place for our
Mm.
teams to speak up, speak often, to ask for help, all of those things. And so that type of leadership, I think, is what works well when you have a great communication, clarity, and again, vulnerability and transparency.
Right. That's
And
really
and
interesting.
what doesn't work is the opposite of that, I
Yeah,
think.
that's right. That's right. And brand building, and you almost have to say in some cases brand rebuilding. It's interesting that you mentioned the first job at Stuckey's. I am enjoying watching from afar in LinkedIn, following the CEO of Stuckey's. Her name is Stephanie Stuckey,
Yeah, I follow her
and
too.
yeah, and she just is doing some really interesting things of reviving and bringing that brand and that whole thing back. And so it's really fun to watch. And she has some great posts out there as well. So if you're not already following her, go follow Stephanie Stuckey. It's very interesting. Well, so that's a good 20-year time over at Container Store, and it just burning in the back of my head of like, oh man, it's all about organization. I'd love to see your kitchen. I'd love to see your closets. What's going on in there? You've got to have everything. But my wife loves that story.
Yeah, I think if people from the Container Store were on, they would say the same thing. We always used to say that organization's a journey, right?
Hmm.
No matter what your style is, as long as you have one, there are pilers and there's filers. And yes, I have really beautiful closets, but I'm also a piler when it comes to my office. So I'm a little bit of a mix.
There's a
But yeah, it's
line from a TV
switchy for
show that I
sure.
quote to this day, and it's a pile for everything and everything in its pile.
There you go.
I think it was from MASH, actually. All right, so Container Store wasn't everything. Take us down. Maybe let's just jump over to Zoe's Kitchen.
Sure.
First of all, from retail to restaurants, that's a shift.
It is a shift, and I wasn't planning to leave the Container Store. Glorious career there, lots of great people that are like family today, still to me. But I'm a foodie. I'm a little obsessed with cooking and chefs, and all of those things. And Zoe's had an open position for their CMO. They were publicly traded at the time. I was a fan. I could take my family there. It was freshly prepped Mediterranean food.
Delicious. So delicious.
Really good stuff. And they were also rooted in core values. They had codified their core values with the Purpose Institute out of Austin
Mm.
shortly before I got there. And they were looking for a leader that could help, lead through a digital transformation, that had been on a management team of a publicly traded company, et cetera. And, I didn't have a resume even. A friend of mine kind of urged me just to go talk to the team. And so I did that, and then went over to lead marketing, and we did all of those things. And I always kind of chuckle now that I'm at a technology company that helps with digital transformation.
Yeah.
I've always been on the other side of that, but that's what I did at Zoe's. We did a brand new website, mobile app, brought the data in-house so we could get to it and make better data-driven decisions, right, as marketers. And I got to work so closely with the head of culinary, who I'm still dear
Oh
friends with,
wow, what fun!
on, menu curation. We did some really great new menu and new food rollouts. And, that's a lot of fun when you're testing recipes and all that. But, it was a opportunity to get the house in order a little bit for the company from a digital standpoint. And then also, work to grow the brand. There were about almost 400 restaurants across the country at the time. And, we were trying to grow that footprint. I always say that that's part of my marketing playbook, is to try and create partnerships or opportunities where you can make a brand bigger than its footprint. And we did a deal with American Airlines, a 2-year deal to put Zoe's food for purchase in flight on all domestic flights. And we did that. And it was huge. It was a opportunity, again, to get the brand up in the air in places where there were restaurants and weren't. It was just a lot of, roll up your sleeves with the team and get it to the finish line. Obviously, American Airlines is a much bigger company than Zoe's at the time. And a lot of people said, Casey, you're not going to be able to do it. But I think, again, with great people who are gritty and, inspiring and motivated, we got it to the finish line. And it was really a cool thing. It won some awards. And again, it just elevated the brand in places where it wasn't located in some cases. So it was a fun time at Zoe's for sure. I did that for several years. Loved it.
That's it reminds me of a phrase that we used to use around Rackspace, I think before you got here, and that was everybody would have their goals, and then they'd have, we call the term stretch goal now. We used to call them BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goal. And that sure sounds like that's what that was.
It was, but it was joyful, right? As when it finally came to fruition. And I love those types of goals. Again, surrounded by a great team to get it done.
Well, those are the kinds of things that you remember because it's impossible for any individual to do any of those things, and it does rely on an entire team. What type of techniques or strategies or did you implement, or is it really just all back to communication? Well, to bring that team together, to codify them around that mission, and then to execute against it.
Yeah, I think collaboration is another C word that
Mm.
I think is super important as leaders, and ensuring that we're not working in silos. And so it was bringing all the right people together, right? And really also just having that clear vision that I mentioned. So when things may stray a little bit, you have to have that North Star. And when we were doing the American Airlines thing at Zoe's, the food quality is something that's super important at Zoe's Kitchen, in terms of just the utmost, the freshest product. There's some compromises you have to make a little bit when you're putting food in the air for a variety of reasons. Things change when you get at a certain altitude. But we did go through the supply chain process with American and our folks, and we were able to push that a little bit harder and get the kind of quality products that were, in line with our brand. And so that collaboration was super important, and speaking up and not being afraid to obviously take ideas from places that you may not expect them to come from. I always try to say, I think the best marketing ideas come from the accounting team or whomever. And I try to lead and also encourage my teams not to be steppy toe, if you will, to encourage, ideas coming from different places, especially the ones that are closest to the customer. Those are the ones that we really need to hear from, right?
So true. Hey, got to pause for a second. We had first person who's come in from Kenya, let alone a refugee camp in Kenya. I'm glad they have internet. I hope you are well and safe.
Hi, Kenya. That's awesome.
That is pretty incredible. All right, so let's pull it forward now. We're at Rackspace. We've gone from organization. We know, we didn't mention, but there was a short stint at a brand for a luxury menswear line. We went to restaurants, and here we are in tech. Was tech intimidating for you coming in?
As we all know, as a marketer, you have to have technology partners, right? You can't do marketing without technology, digital, all of those things. But yes, a little intimidating. You included, Jeff. I mean, all of the wonderful people that I'm surrounded by at Rackspace are brilliant. We have so many wonderful technologists. And so I do have I keep it pretty close by. I would show it to you. A book of acronyms, basically, that I keep very close at hand. But it's been great. I mean, the Racker culture is amazing. Obviously, the principles of marketing, spill right over. So my career, my history, it works here too. And I think, for us, brand building is super important because we are a different company than we were 20 years ago. And so that's one of the big things that our teams are working on, is to really tell the story of the Rackspace technology today, a best in class, pure play cloud solutions company. And so that was kind of A1, first priority, is to start trying to chip away at that. Obviously, we have a lot of great solutions that we're launching all the time. And so, marketing that is super collaborative and super important. And obviously, getting more customers in the fold is a big part of what
Yes.
we're doing as marketers. So intimidating in the fact that sometimes I didn't really understand some of the language you were speaking, you and your fellow technologists, but a lot of great resources around the company, and hugely helpful spirit in terms of making folks feel, assimilated and ingratiated into the company.
Nice. Well, we're getting close towards the end of our time, Casey. I love this advice from your amazing career that you've been sharing all along the way. Lots of great nuggets for us to carry on. But I've been ending each of these interviews with a question, and that is really it's just for you to give some advice to. I started with you with saying, "Hey, tell me about 12-year-old Casey," but now let's talk to today's 12-year-olds, 13s, 15s, especially as it relates to careers that may seem intimidating, especially as a non-technologist or somebody excited about tech, because we need them all here. Let's talk to some of those young women and some advice maybe that you have for them.
Sure. I think, aim high, be brave, speak up, go for the ask. That's something I say all the time, is make the ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get, right? And so if you're curious, I think being curious is super important. But if you're curious about a role or an industry, don't be afraid to speak up and find these experts or mentors. I don't care if they're 20, 30 years older than you. People want to help people. And I think, we have all these wonderful, right, platforms now where we can connect and interface with folks. And so I think it's just being brave and aiming high and making the ask. And I really do feel like you can do anything you put your mind to, but surround yourself with people that can help you do that thoughtfully. I gave a talk recently about work-life balance, which I really don't believe there's such a thing, and that's a whole nother
You're
episode.
going to come back to talk about that.
Right, but one of the first tips I said in that work-life integration is find your place, find your people. So, find a place where you're passionate about the mission of the company and the work they're doing, the people that you'll be surrounded by, and that makes your career that much easier. You feel like you're in a safe place. You can be vulnerable. You can make those asks. You can speak up, speak often, all those things. And so a lot in that answer to you, but I just would encourage people young in their career, or the 12-year-olds, just to be brave, speak up, speak often.
I love that. Speak up, speak often, be brave, find your place, find your people. So many good nuggets here, Casey. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Casey. I know that
Thank
can be a
you.
little intimidating to jump on and talk to people from Kenya to Mexico, but you can see through the chat that they've all really enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. So
Well,
thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next meetings throughout the day.
that's right. I'll see you later. Thank you all.
All right, everyone. So much to learn there. I'd hope you will maybe even replay some of these, play them for your kids. These conversations are just killer, and the experiences of these folks. And I really do want to echo what Casey said around you young folks have the opportunity to reach out and ask questions. I would tell you, I would respond if somebody pinged me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I'm 15 years old and I have a question for you about technology." Absolutely would have a response to that. Can't think of too many people who wouldn't. All right. As a reminder, you can get all of this information over at rackspace.com/solve/ this is episode 109. Everything that you have heard today, you will be able to get links to over there. All right, with that, let's jump into our last section. We're now finishing up with the cloud discussion, and let's jump into our This Week in Cloud section. So how is the cloud making the news? I will be peppy about this so I can make sure to get you to your next meetings. Now, BMC Software, very interesting, very, they've been around for a while. It's a mature company. They have software there, BMC Software accelerates its cloud journey, promoting its autonomous digital enterprise. What a phrase, autonomous digital enterprise. Guys, we don't have time to go through all of this, but they ultimately, as you can see by this design, have a systematic plan. We all are now a digital organization, and they're starting with that presupposition that every process, every bit of your organization either is or can or should be a digital process. If it's a digital process, then what they want you to do, and they've got software and stuff all around that, is that they think it all starts with a foundation of around a couple of core pillars: automation and orchestration, AI ops and observability. By the way, one of our partner and sponsor is App Dynamics, amazing in observability. Check them out, appdynamics.com. Enterprise service management, and what they call the future-proof mainframe. There is a lot in this article. This article is written by somebody I've quoted a whole lot of times. He's a very smart dude. So go check that out. It's over at, I forget which, it's on the screen. Nope, it isn't. Anyway, all right, so go check that out. Moving on is an article by somebody else that I quote all the time, Mr. David Lithicum. He is one of the, I'll call him the godfathers as it relates to all things tech and thought leadership. So go check that out. But this is an article on why governance is critical to cloud success. Now, if you're a technologist, if you're into that transformation mode, you know that governance is a phrase that will sometimes slow you down on your mission. Now, go read this article. Short, like blog length, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. While you sip a cup of coffee. So go check that out. And it's going to talk about the core things from a survey that they're really holding people back as it relates to cloud transformation. And yes, it all does have to do with governance. All right. So with that, let's move on to seeing what's new from our cloud providers this week. And it starts with AWS. AWS Lambda now allows customers to configure up to 10 gigabytes of ephemeral storage for these Lambda functions. Ephemeral storage, meaning you've got just some storage that exists while that function runs. You know, I tend to think about these functions as these small little bits, but they are allowing for a pretty significant amount of storage there. So that is amazing. Well done, AWS. Let's move over to Azure. And generally now available is Azure Data Explorer, supports multiple data bases per data connection. This is amazing. So it allows you to triangulate and associate more and more data sets into a single bit of query and digging in to understand more. Again, Data Explorer, helping you understand your data more. Go check that out. You can find it at rackspace.com/solve/109. I'll have a link to these articles. Now, Cloud Bigtable supports Cloud EKM, or Enterprise Key Management, is now generally available. So if you are deep into the Google ecosystem and you're using Enterprise Cloud Management, Bigtable is now in full support of Enterprise Key Management. So go check that out. Last on the list, somebody posted a lot earlier. I'm not going to scroll back, but somebody wants to goals of being a future racker. So I want to talk about our job of the day. And that job is, I don't remember. Oh, yeah, I do. It is just interviewing. Hope to hear back soon. James Sipes. Come on, James. Come join the team. We are looking for, hey, speaking of the Google Cloud Platform, guys, we are an ecosystem. We are looking for Google Cloud architects over here. Now, we're looking for them globally. I will tell you this one right here. We're looking for somebody in Egypt. Like that we're hiring people in the shadow of the Great Pyramids. So I actually don't know where in Egypt. Maybe it's in Cairo. Who knows? But we're looking for somebody who has deep experience. When we think architecture, folks, we're thinking about people who have been there and done that a couple hundred times. So, and with an expertise inside of Google. Obviously, their environment has existed for decades. None of them have. So as long as you've got good, deep technical architectural experience, as well as experience inside and maybe even some certifications inside of GCP, well, head on over to rackspace.com/107. No, 109. Woo, go to 107. You're getting a different job. But there's a link to this very job over there, and you can go apply it or to learn about other jobs that you may be interested in. And again, all of this is available. The audio for all of these are available on the Cloud Talk podcast stream. So just go to anywhere where you get your podcast and just search for Cloud Talk. That's how you're going to hear Srini's episode, our new CTO. A great episode, great advice for leading with technology. And I encourage you all to go check that out. Hey guys, Thursday, I want to tell you about an amazing woman who's going to come be a part of our program. Her name is Kat Dazon. Kat is an ex-record. That's how I got to know her. But she is also the co-founder and chief operating officer over at Active Capital, actively investing and helping to operate business startups. So It's going to be a super fun conversation. Kat is brilliant. She is engaging and just delightful. So you're going to learn a ton from her. Head on over there. Head on back over here on Thursday at 8:30 Central Time and check it out. Guys, tomorrow we have a killer episode of Rackspace Live, 12:30 Central Time. Did you know that on Thursday it is World Backup Day? That's right. Sounds not very sexy, but it is actually one of the most important things you can do in this time of heightened cybersecurity challenges. So we've got some great guests, one from Rackspace, one from an ex-Rackspace company that left we actually spun out. And so we're bringing their CTO into that conversation. That's tomorrow at 12:30 Central. Hope you'll be there. I'm trying to cut myself off here. It's like Daniel's pulling me out of the show. So everyone, I hope you have an amazing day. We've run a tad long. I was having too much fun talking to Casey. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Guys, we have these conversations every Tuesday and Thursday. Come be a part of them. And then, of course, there are Rackspace Lives on Wednesday at 12:30, where we dig deeper into what's happening in tech. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you tomorrow at 12:30 Central Time. Set a reminder now.